been a while since I've done a midweek episode for this podcast. Well, so I'm not the best at planning ahead. I tried to plan ahead, and it didn't. Okay, so I decided at the beginning of this holiday movie list how many, I decided what movies I was going to do, and I had it set so that the last movie would be on Christmas Day, and I miscounted because there's 2 extra movies on the list than I could just take those 2 movies off and keep doing this weekly for the next couple weeks, but then I realized that currently, as things sit, the Christmas Day episode will be episode 25. And I just thought that was kind of funny because, it's on the 25th and it's the 25th episode. And I don't know, maybe I just find it funny. So what I'm going to do instead of just having the Christmas Day episode be the episode 23, I am going to be releasing 2 episodes a week for the next 2 weeks. One on Sunday and one on Thursday. So, yeah. I always complain about not having enough time to do the 2 podcasts, and now I'm doing like 3 times more episodes than normal on this one, because before I was doing the holiday episodes, I was doing an episode every 2 weeks, like every other week, and the digressor was every other week, so it's like they were alternating, and now I'm doing this one every week, and I'm doing it twice a week, so, Anyway, The Santa Claus. It's a 1994 holiday film from Disney, directed by John Pasquin, written by Leo Benvenuti. I don't know how to pronounce that. I should have learned to pronounce the names before I try to pronounce them. And Steve Rudnick, and it stars Tim Allen, Judge Reinhold. Okay, I know he's a huge celebrity. I've never learned how to pronounce it. Eric Lloyd, David Krumholtz, and Wendy Crewson. I probably mispronounce all those names. Eric Lelulul. I don't know. There's 2 L's back to back. I don't know how to pronounce that. Anyway, this is a holiday classic, one of my favorites. I know I said that in the last episode. This one is really one of those classics that I just absolutely love. And they did make sequels. I don't plan on covering those sequels. They just recently released a 6-episode series on Disney Plus, The Santa Clauses. And I hope they keep this up, because after the Santa Claus 3, I was like, nope, no more, stop here. When they announced the new series, I was like, no! But that one was actually really good. I really wanted more of that, and I was like, why do they keep doing 6 episodes? They, like Marvel and Star Wars, all these, they get 6 episodes. And, with this one, it's 6 episodes. And I whatever happened to, remember the old days when TV shows ran for like 26 episodes? And now they don't do that. Anyway, this, I think I will go into spoilers on this. I know it's, my thing is, if it's readily available, I won't go into spoilers because I want you to go watch it. But this one is such a classic. It is readily available because it's on Disney Plus obviously. That would be weird if it wasn't on Disney Plus. That honestly would be very weird. It's like, why are you holding back? But what if they didn't have the Santa Claus, but they had all the sequels in the series? It's like, you're missing something. No, Netflix did that at one point. They had like all the Children of the Corn except the first one. I don't know if they're all connected or anything. Or like you need that first one. But I just thought it was funny. That was a long time ago. I don't know how that is now. Anyway, so Tim Allen plays Scott Calvin, and the film starts. He's clearly like he's in the business world, and he's not a very reliable person, it shows, because he's divorced, and it's his turn to watch the kids. He gets his kid Charlie for the weekend, and it's Christmas weekend, and he's late. It shows him on racing home from work after a company party, and he's on like leaving a message for his ex-wife. It's like, oh, you will not believe the traffic. But then it shows there's no traffic. So, yeah, that's, the usual movie cliche of showing someone's not a good person. Not a good on-time, not reliable. That's the word I'm struggling to say, even though I just said it like a minute ago. I don't know. I slept since then. So it's made very clear by the way Charlie acts towards him that he hasn't been the best father. Like, Charlie turns to the mother and goes, "Do I have to stay here?" Like, right in front of him, too. So it's like it doesn't really show how he was before. It just kind of starts here. It just kind of implies that, like, he's more focused on work. Because that's how he's kind of perceived, like, at the beginning of the film. And it doesn't really dive too much into that. It really does kind of, like, just jump into the story. You barely get any insight into his work life. And even though I've seen this movie, like, 100 times throughout my life, I never really picked up on that until this time. Because I'm actually trying to watch it to, like, evaluate it. And I realized this time that they're trying to imply he's more work-oriented, that's all he cares about. But they don't really do a good job at showing that. We really only see his work twice. At the beginning company party, and again, it's a company party, and you don't really see them working. It's just kind of having fun. And then later in the film, they're ordering... it shows them ordering a meal together. So you never really see them working. So, but I get to that. That's actually an interesting scene that I kind of have a complaint about. But anyway, so he reads his son A Nightmare Before Christmas. A Night Before Christmas. All through the house. Not a chimney was stirring, not even a mouse. Not a mouse was stirring, even jolly Christmas. I don't know. I just live here. Here being Earth. I don't know about Earth customs and stuff. So he's reading that book, and Charlie's like, "What is a ladder?" It's there arose such a clatter. And he's like, no, it's rose such a ladder. And then it's like, it's not a ladder, Charlie. Arose like up above, and then the clatter is like a loud noise. And then like, of course, there's a loud noise at night when they're trying to sleep. And Scott goes to investigate, because he's like, oh, we got burglars on the roof. And that's when the movie really begins, because he kind of kills Santa. Santa's on the roof, and Scott goes, "Hey!" And then Santa's like, "Ah!" and then falls. It dies. It's And honestly, though, I don't think the movie would have happened without Charlie, because Scott would probably just call the cops and be like, "Oh yeah, no, it was an accident," and an ambulance called and everything. But it's because of Charlie, that there's a ladder that comes, and Scott hits it, and Charlie runs up the ladder, and Scott goes after him. And if this wasn't, Santa Claus and stuff, Scott made a huge mistake, because he picks up Santa's clothes and takes it with him. If this wasn't Santa, he just ruined the crime scene. He got his fingerprints and everything all over it. So Charlie basically has them go and do the Santa stuff. Scott's like, "I don't want to do this because this is stupid." Charlie's like, "Why is everything I want to do stupid?" Which kind of hints at what happened before. Like I said, not much is known about Scott and Charlie before the movie starts. But that little line from Charlie is like, that's a really revealing line. So, not much is known, but we get hints as we watch the movie. So, I think the first house the second house they do, it's this little girl named Sarah. And she seems pretty okay with Santa, like the whole Santa being there. Like, she's not like, "It's Santa." She's very calm about it. "Santa, you've lost weight. You're supposed to drink some milk." And Scott's being sarcastic the whole time. That's his personality. He's just very sarcastic and rude. And Tim Allen pulls it off. He's funny. They get to the North Pole, and then even as a kid, I thought it was kind of weird that the elves never really acknowledged that there's a new Santa. I mean, they acknowledge it because, they're all excited to meet him, but, like, none of them's like, "What happened to the other Santa?" Like, "Oh no." And the reason I bring this up is it's kind of, well, I probably would have brought it up anyway, but it is a plot point in the new Santa Claus series. I saw an interview with Tim Allen where he's like, "That's something that's always bothered me. Like, they don't even acknowledge the old Santa. They just kind of ignore him." And they explain all of that in the new show. So if you haven't, I'm not going to spoil the new show, but I do highly recommend watching that because it does explain a lot. And it even explains things that didn't really need to explain, but in a good way. Like, it's like they took things that happened. They took things that happened in the old movies and gave them new meaning and, like, expanded on them, and it actually furthers the story in a really good way, and I really like it. So I'm not going to spoil anything. Just go watch that. Yeah. So they explore the North Pole briefly. Bernard is the head elf, and he's very angry. And they do all this. Scott gets pajamas that say SC, and they wake up, and they're back in Chicago. Of course, automatically, Scott thinks this is all a dream. It was all a dream. That didn't happen. He did think it was weird that he woke up in the pajamas he put on in the dream. But Charlie obviously knows that it actually happened, and he tries telling everyone, and they don't believe him. For most of the movie, that's what's going on. Is Charlie's like, oh yeah, we went to the North Pole. My dad's Santa Claus, and he gets taken away from. Scott loses his visitation rights, and it's a whole thing. There's a moment later in the movie that my sisters and I used to pause and rewind and just laugh at. Whenever they realize that Scott actually is Santa Claus, Neil, which is Judge Reinhold's character, he kind of looks at him and makes like this, or I can't even recreate it. It's kind of grunt noise while he turns around in realization. And my sisters and I, this was back in the VCR and VHS. We would constantly rewind it, play that, and laugh, pause it, rewind it, and then we were laughing at just that constantly, and it was funny. And yeah, it's not really relevant to the plot, but I thought I would point that out because this movie is nostalgic. And the fact, it's one of those things that kind of like I was saying in a previous episode, one of those things that you can watch when you're a kid and then watch it again when you're an adult and have a whole new appreciation for it. Like I said earlier, there's things about this I didn't even realize until this watch through. Like his motives at the beginning, he was more career focused, and it's not like thrown in your face like some movies are. So I guess it is kind of a good thing. There's some movies that are over the top with it, where it's like, we're like, Click. The whole point of that is, your life isn't supposed to be about work, and that's kind of driven into you. They could have done that with this, but they didn't, and it was more subtle, which is good, and I like that. And I said earlier I was going to get back to that scene where they order. I posted this on Facebook in 2017, and yeah, it's a complaint that I had from that point on. I'm just going to read the post. So this is the post that I wrote in 2017. I just watched that scene from the Santa Claus where Tim Allen orders that really large lunch and everyone looks at him funny because he's ordering too much. I've always thought back on that scene and thought he ordered like 15 things. But here's the dialogue from that scene.
So, did I miss anything?
No, we were just about to order lunch.
Great! I'm starving.
I'll have a salad and iced tea and dressing on the side.
Pasta and tomatoes, and very light on the oil. Can you do that?
And I'll have a Caesar, no dressing. And one of those homemade cookies, the warm chocolate chip, no nuts. And a little slice of cheesecake, creme brulee, and hot fudge sundae. Extra hot fudge. On the side.
Anything to drink?
Ice cold milk.
Stung by a bee, Scott?
A big bee.
To be honest, that sounds very light by today's standard. I'm not planning on covering the sequels like this year or any, so I might as well talk about those while I'm here. I said in a previous episode that my opinions on the movie. This one, The Santa Claus, is a great movie. It's classic. The Santa Claus 2 is an okay movie. And The Santa Claus 3 is a movie. It's not the worst. It's just not that great. One of my biggest complaints with The Santa Claus 2 is actually the ending. It just... I I never really liked that it just kind of ends. Like, it's made clear that the Prancer, I think that's what Comet I think is the reindeer that comes with Scott back to the real world. It's made clear that he's eaten too much candy and can't come back to the North Pole because he can't fly. He's too heavy. So that's why Santa Claus has to basically use the Tooth Fairy to get back to the North Pole. And so, the end is coming. He's, the climax of the movie, and he's got to marry a Mrs. Claus by a certain time, but he left the girl he likes back in Chicago, and it's hopeless. And then literally out of nowhere, Charlie and the principal come out of nowhere because of Comet. They came on Comet. Like, why? That you made it clear that he's not able to fly, and it's literally like one of those, I forgot what it's called, the Machina things they wrote themselves in their corner. How are we gonna get this? Yeah, it's Comet. We've already established. No one will remember that. So I like that it furthered the story, but that's my one big complaint with the movie is that rushed ending. Like I said, it was an okay movie. Like, there was, up to that point, I like what they did with it. Like, they gave Charlie a younger sister, so there's still a little kid, because he's in high school at this point, and so, like, there's not that little kid element. So he has Lucy as a little sister. They got a little kid there again. And I think she's even supposed to be the same age. Because, like, Charlie's like, Lucy, when I was your age, yeah, that's when I found out my father was Santa. Well, actually, you didn't find out your father was Santa. When you were her age, he became Santa. There is a difference. And then the Santa Claus 3, it's kind of misleading. All the advertising made it seem like the whole movie was gonna be, Jack Frost is now the new Santa. Like, he goes, they go back in time and change the past, and it affects the future, and that's going to be the whole movie. But that's literally only like 10 minutes of the movie, and at the end, it's like the last 10 minutes of the movie. It only lasts about 10 minutes, and then the movie ends. Well, the first time I watched it, I kind of liked that. They're not rushing into it. It's a slow build to that, and I do like that. There's like more character development. All these real world characters. The only reason I'm calling it real world is because that's what the show calls it. There's the North Pole, and then there's the real world. So all these people from the real world are coming to the North Pole after 3 movies. And it's exciting. They see their reaction. In the first movie, they were denying it. And then in the third one, we're in the North Pole. So, like, there is good things about it. I don't hate any of these movies. Like, I know it sounded like I didn't like the third one at all, because I was like, it's a movie. But, like, I don't think either of them really match the quality of the first one. But what's kind of funny, and something I've noticed this watch through, is the first one, it was more, I want to say, realistic. Like, even, like, the font was very, like, realistic font. Like, I don't know, it had, like, I want to say, I don't know how to word this. I knew I wanted to talk about this. I didn't know how to word it, and I'm still thinking. It has a more like serious business focus type thing. They don't really focus on magic. It's there. It's like they didn't really know what the movie was going to be. Like even the font. If you look at the logo, it's different from anything else in the series. And like the Santa Claus 2, it's a completely new font, a new logo, and that logo follows them up till the new series, and it's more like magic focused. And I noticed that this watch through, and I thought that was kind of interesting. I don't know. It's just something I noticed. I don't know if that even made sense. But yeah, like that was the Santa Claus, and touching on the trilogy and touching on the sequels and the TV series. I do hope they continue this franchise in some way, like something you can watch. I don't want them to like continue it as a comic book and say, "Look, we continued the series." Like, no, I don't want to read the further adventures of these characters. I want to see it. I don't like when they do that. When they're like, "Oh yeah, we're." Like, they fix a plot hole in Star Wars in the comics. Like, no, put it in the movies or one of the shows. They literally made an entire movie to explain why there's a hole in the Death Star that blows it up. They didn't put that in the comic, but, I mean, they might have. I don't know. But what was I getting at? Oh, yeah. I want them to make more movies or shows or something in this franchise, because I like what they're doing now. I was glad that they stopped when they did, but it's like they've had time to like really think about it. Like, oh, okay, yeah, it was going a direction we didn't want it to go, and they put it in the right direction. But anyway, yeah, that's in the episode here. I'm post the next episode in a few days instead of a week, so look forward to that.